Hey, what's going on? Welcome to episode 51 of the Kevin Burke Project. Let's get right to it, man. Antonio Brown, AB, you saw it. He leaves the Bucks-Jets game in the middle of the game during the third quarter, during a play where the offense is on the field, right? When that happened, when that circulated on social media, most people weren't watching the game, right? Unless you lived in New York or Tampa Bay, you weren't watching the game. So all you saw was, a clip on social media of him taking off his pads and his jersey, his shirt underneath and his gloves, and throwing it into the stands and running off during a play where the offense was actually on the field calling a play. Like his unit was on the field about to run a play. That's all we saw. Right? And so the knee-jerk reaction, of course, is look at this guy, man. Look at AB doing what AB does. And that's me too, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, what is this man doing? He keeps getting chance after chance after chance after chance. Like, I'm thinking at that time, there's a reason why the Steelers quit on, the Steelers got rid of him, and then the Raiders got rid of him, and then the Patriots, right? So I'm thinking like, there's a pattern, it's gotta be him, it's gotta be AB. He keeps getting chance after chance after chance. Now look at this, I've never seen anybody do this during the game. So I'm in my head, I'm calling him all kinds of names and potentially unfair to him because I don't even know the situation. I just know that this guy left during the game. I've never seen that before. No one's ever seen that before because I wasn't watching the game. I don't know what was happening, right? Then the next day, more news comes out about what actually happened, because after the game, Bruce Arians doesn't even want to talk about it. He declines to talk about Antonio Brown leaving the game during the game, which I'm like, how can you actually choose to not address that? That's like the biggest takeaway from the game is like this happened, no one saw that. So the next day, what I'm seeing now, the next day on social media, I see Ian Rappaport from NFL Network say that Bruce Arians asked AB to come into the game and AB refused because he said that he was not healthy. He had not practiced all week. As you know, he missed most of the season coming back from injuries. He said his ankle wasn't good enough to play. He had not practiced all week, and so he did not feel good enough. He did not feel healthy enough to go into the game. He said, "No, I can't go into the game." I don't know how exactly that back and forth went, but that's what I heard from Ian Rappaport on NFL Network. So if this is the case, if he's telling the coach, "No, I'm not healthy to play," and then the report also says that Bruce Arians' response was, "Okay, then leave. You're off the team." And then AB does what we saw. Takes off his jersey and leaves because I guess he thought he was told that he was cut. He's no longer on the team. So he's taking off his uniform and he's leaving during the game. So I say all that to say, if that's really how it went down, then the whole narrative of this AB leaving during the game is a little bit different. Because yeah, him running off, if that's all you saw, him running off during the game, it looks bad on him. But if the coach asked him to come into the game and he's saying, "Coach, I am not healthy enough to play," and the coach says, "Okay, then leave, you're off the team," then let me ask you this. Is AB actually the victim in all of this? It's just a question. I don't know the answer to that because there's always three sides to the story: his side, the other person's side, and the actual truth. Somewhere in the middle is the actual truth. And as I sit here right now and talk, AB has not addressed this situation. So I really don't know what's going on. And of course, we now look into the future. Is he going to get another chance with another team? I don't think so. I feel like if he couldn't make it work with Tom Brady, yeah, they won a Super Bowl together. But if he couldn't get along with the team that has Tom Brady at the quarterback, where's he gonna go? Like, where's he gonna go? But again, I just ask, is he actually the victim in all of this? I don't know. Let me go to the NBA real quick. Listen, COVID and Omicron, I gotta stop. Freudian slip. Omicron variant, I gotta stop doing that. Is running crazy across the NBA and the NFL, of course, as we know. It's so crazy in the league that, they have to league in order to field a roster, in order to have, you need, 8 healthy bodies to play an NBA game. In order to have the minimum of 8, of course, a lot of these teams are signing guys from yesteryear to 10-day contracts until other guys clear COVID protocols and they can return. That's great for these guys who otherwise would never be in the NBA, like G League call-ups and things like that. That's great that they can actually live out their dream. But where it feels kind of weird to me is like, you're having a lot of guys from yesteryear, guys who we thought were retired. Like, I thought a lot of these guys were retired. They're getting called up. And then I'm reminded that no, they didn't retire. The game retired them, meaning no team wanted them. Until now, like they're forced to pick up anybody who has a pulse to field an 8-man roster to play a game. And so my beef is only that, you know, guys who had a decent NBA career, a solid NBA career, like I don't want to see these guys effectively begging. That's what they're doing. That's what it looks like to me. Begging on social media for a 10-day contract. That's what it looks like to me. That's what it sounds like to me. That's what it seems like to me. Guys like Mario Chalmers and Michael Beasley and Jamal Crawford, who could definitely still play, by the way. J.R. Smith. Like, these guys were solid NBA veterans for a long time. Champions, some of the names I just mentioned, are basically on Twitter, like, begging. You know, tweets like, hey, I see they're giving out 10-day contracts. I'm still available. And, like, I don't know. If I'm in their shoes, would I react any differently than them? I don't know. I'm just saying it's weird and not a good look for them that they are kind of like begging for. Like, it's 2022 now. Like, I don't want to see Mario Chalmers begging for a roster spot. But I guess in his situation it actually worked because the Heat signed him. I don't know. It just makes, you know, I don't think it's a good look for them. I don't think it's a good look for them. Especially knowing that you're only going to get 10 days to play. They're not going to sign you. You haven't played in the league in 6-7 years or whatever the case may be. A lot of these guys, I'm like, I forgot about him. You haven't played professionally in whatever years and you're going to get signed for 10 days. So you're begging work, but in a week and a half, that's it. And real quick on the NBA, can I just say this? Real quick on the league before I transition. In the situation of Kyrie versus the Nets, I would not have thought that Kyrie would have won. That's what happened. Kyrie won. In the same COVID backdrop, we need enough guys to fill the roster. Kyrie won because the Nets did not have to activate Kyrie. They could have called up, right? They could have called up the same caliber of guys I'm talking about to field enough guys to play a game. I think they caved and they gave in, and Kyrie won this staring contest of vaccinations versus not vaccinations. I'm going to tell you again, if there's one person walking God's green earth who will never get vaccinated, it is Kyrie Irving. So you're going to have this part-time guy, but he's not going to get vaccinated. All right, let me switch to boxing with Jake Paul, you know, a few weeks ago knocks out Tyron Woodley, knocks him out cold, put him to sleep. And this is, of course, the second time he's beat this guy. And this guy is like an actual fighter, not a boxer, but an actual fighter, MMA. And now after he knocks him out, after Jake Paul knocks out Tyron Woodley, Le'Veon Bell hops on Twitter and calling out Jake Paul, saying, hey, Jake, you want to fight somebody who can actually box? Fight me. Stop fighting these guys who can't box. And so a little back and forth ensues on Twitter. Let me just ask you a question. Can I just throw this? This may be the unpopular thing to say or ask. Okay? And I didn't think this until Jake Paul knocks out Woodley, and then Le'Veon Bell hops on Twitter and is essentially begging or asking Jake Paul to fight him. Let me just ask you this. At what point do we just say, man, this Jake Paul guy can fight? Like, at what point do we say Jake Paul can box? I know he's not necessarily fighting decorated boxers. I get that. I get it. He's fighting in certain situations. He's fighting people who've never boxed before. I get it. But he's also never boxed before. And I'm not even in the corner of the Paul brothers. I think what they're doing is At most entertaining, at worst a mockery to the sport of boxing. But I'm just asking the question, at what point do we say these guys or this guy can just fight? Because what if he fights Le'Veon Bell and knocks him out? It's going to be another athlete that says, oh, fight me. Because when he first knocked out Nate Robinson, all the athletes came out of the woodwork and said, no, fight me, fight me, fight me. And if he keeps knocking these dudes out, I'm just saying, I think we'd be quiet and say, you know what? This guy could fight. I don't know if that's the case yet, if we've arrived there, but at some point, we're going to get there. All right, real quick, back to the NBA. Karl-Anthony Towns was being interviewed by somebody. I forget who it was, but he basically said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, it's very close. I'm like, this is almost a direct quote, but he's saying that Russell Westbrook chases stats. That's what he said. Those are the words. He chases stats. That is a direct quote. Russ chases stats. And the question was around, just stuff in the stat sheet. If you get great stats but you lose, like how does it, what does all that mean? And he said Russell Westbrook chases stats. And we've heard this from Russ. We've heard this about Russ for a long time, and I just never understood what the term chasing stats means. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Like Rudy Gobert. If Rudy Gobert were to have a game with 20 rebounds, which he does quite frequently because he's a very tall man and he's a center and he's trained to rebound the ball. If he has a game with 20 rebounds, did he chase rebounds? That's a serious question. Did he? If Andre Drummond has a game with 20 rebounds, did he chase rebounds? I'm just asking the question. If Chris Paul had a game with 20 assists, did he chase assists? Or are these guys just playing the game in which they know how to play? That doesn't make any sense. This chasing stats thing doesn't make any sense to me, because if a ball comes off the rim, are you supposed to watch it? You see a guy open to make a pass to him for him to score, to get an assist. Are you supposed to not pass it to him? Are you supposed to not score if the lane is open because you don't want to be labeled as chasing stats? That concept of chasing stats doesn't make any sense to me. That's how you play. Like you play to accumulate stats to do something. If you can't go out there and get zeros across the board and have an impact on the game. Like that doesn't, maybe you can from like a defensive standpoint, but you know what I'm trying to say. And especially to have like an NBA player say that, a guy who routinely records a double-double, like, and he was called out, like, I think Draymond called him out. I forget who else called out Karl-Anthony Towns, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And beyond that, anyway, let me not say what I was going to say. I'll leave it at that. All right, my last thing before I get out of here. Steph Curry broke that record, several weeks ago, a month ago, however long ago it was. Most decorated three-point shooter of all time. A couple things real quick as it relates to three-pointers in the NBA. When he broke that record, first of all, and I'm a Knicks fan. Ironically, I'm wearing this today. I'm a Knicks fan. When he broke it in the Garden, I thought it was fitting that he was going to break it in Madison Square Garden, because the game in which Steph Curry became Steph Curry, in my opinion, was when he scored 54 points, then a career high. This was 2012, I think it was. Amari Stoudemire was still on the Knicks, if you remember this. He went 11 of 13 from downtown, scored 54 points. He was shimmying and doing all kind of crazy, Steph antics. That was the game that Steph Curry became Steph Curry in the NBA. That was before he ever made an All-Star team. I said, I don't know who this guy is. Well, I knew who he was, but he has arrived. And the Warriors actually lost that game. The Knicks won that game, but you couldn't tell. He was doing everything. He was not just the three-pointers, but he was going to the hole, showing off his handle, everything, right? So he wins. So he scores 54 in that game, and the Warriors actually win. And I say Steph has arrived. So because of that, that was his coming out party. I think it's fitting that he breaks the record in the Garden again. My only problem with that, and even as a Knicks fan, I can be home. I can actually appreciate the greatness. I applaud it. You see a historic moment in sports, you can applaud, right? It's fine. It's not. You don't got to be a crazy fan. It's okay. If you did something good against your team, it's okay. It's fine. It happens. If it wasn't against your team, it was going to be against somebody else's team. My only beef with that was Spike Lee. I don't know what Spike Lee was doing. Like Spike, if you want to walk up behind Steph, next to Steph, and take some pictures after the game, I think that's cool. But you don't have to be on the ground looking like how you were looking on the ground taking pictures of Steph. That was not a good look. I don't know why you were on the ground. Like, that didn't make any sense to me. So anyway, as it relates to NBA, as it relates to three-pointers in the NBA, I think three things have happened why three-pointers have taken over the league. I think the first thing that happened is what I just mentioned, Steph Curry's 54-point game, where it said, I am here now, I have arrived. That was when three-pointers started to become cool in the NBA. That 11 for 13 from downtown three-point game against the Knicks, the one I'm talking about. That was the first step. The second step, or the second thing that happened in the NBA that made three-pointers what they are, is when there was a Saturday night game, Warriors against the Thunder. This is probably, I should have looked it up. It was probably like 2015-ish. It was before KD went to the Warriors. Saturday night game, Mike Breen was on the call. The game went to overtime, I remember it, and Steph hit a three in overtime from the logo to beat the Thunder. And he did a little shimmy and all that. That was the first time he really did the logo three where he didn't have to. He had more time to dribble up and get a closer shot. That's when the logo three became cool. So again, the first step was three-pointers becoming cool because of his game against the Knicks. The second one was, again, the shot against the Thunder where the logo three becomes cool. And then you have like James Harden, I think then he takes it over at that point. James Harden then does this double step back. And the first time he did this double step back, everybody was laughing. He wasn't even called for a travel when he did this double step back the first time. But everybody on social media is laughing. The commentators are laughing. The defender gets called for a foul on this double step back. Now, you see this double step back move to set up a three-pointer, which, by the way, Steph Curry does routinely. It's like a normal part of the game now. Nobody laughs. Nobody questions, is that a travel? It is, by the way. Like, it doesn't, it just is what it is. It's a part of the game now, right? So you got Steph's coming out party, makes three-pointers cool. Steph's long three-pointers makes the logo cool. You got double step back, put all those into one thing, and now the NBA is what the NBA is. Will anybody ever break Steph Curry's three-point record? They'll get close. You don't even have to be a great, let me stop right there. You don't have to be as skilled of a shooter as Steph Curry to get close to his record, whatever it'll be when he retires. You just have to get up enough shots, and then you'll get close enough, because the day that Steph Curry broke that record, he broke Ray Allen's record, that was his 15th game this season. That was his 4th game this season of 15 or more three-point attempts. And Ray Allen did that like twice, 3 times in his whole career. So what is my point in all this three-point talk? I don't even have one, to be honest with you. I don't even have one. I just think the evolution of where the game was to where it is with the three-point shot is fascinating, and it's worth taking a step back and thinking, how did we get here? Yeah, it's because of Steph, but again, there were moments along the way that got us here.